I was 32. The doctor said I had cerebral edema brain swelling. They told me to rest, to stop training, to stop filming, to stop pushing myself so hard. They looked at me like a patient. But they didn't understand. This wasn't just about an injury. This wasn't just about my body shutting down. I wasn't fighting my physical limits. I was battling something deeper, something older. A war I had been fighting since the very beginning, when I was told I wasn't enough, when I was mocked for my accent, when I was told a Chinese man couldn't be a hero in a Western world. It wasn't the swelling that scared me. It was the silence in my mind, the voice that waited for moments like this, the one that whispered, maybe they're right, the one that said, this is where it ends. But I had met that voice before, in dark rooms, in lonely training halls, in the quiet moments when the world wasn't watching, and every time it rose, I cut it down not with anger, but with discipline, with silence, with movement, because I learned something that day. The enemy was never the sickness, never the pain, never the critics. That enemy was me. You think it's out there? No, it's in here. You think your enemy is out there? You think it's the people who judged you, the opportunities you didn't get, the unfair breaks, or even the difficult life you were born into? No, that's the illusion. The real battle isn't outside. It's inside your own head. Let me ask you something. What's really holding you back from becoming who you were born to be? Is it your past mistakes? Is it the people who never believed in you? Is it the system you grew up in? Your background? Your lack of resources? Or your current situation? That's what most people believe, but they're wrong. The truth is much simpler and much harder to accept. What's really stopping you is the quiet voice inside your own mind. It doesn't yell, it doesn't threaten. It speaks softly, like it's trying to help. It tells you things like, you're not ready yet, or maybe wait until tomorrow, or let's not take any risks today, just stay where it's safe. And because it sounds like caution, because it speaks gently, you believe it. You think it's your friend, but that's the trap. That voice isn't protecting you, it's protecting your comfort zone. It's not guiding you forward, it's keeping you exactly where you are, wrapped in excuses, surrounded by hesitation. I learned this the hard way. That voice in your head isn't your inner wisdom, it's your inner prison. It keeps you tame when you were built for war. It locks you in hesitation when you were designed for action. And the longer you listen to it, the weaker you get, not because you don't have strength, but because you've handed that strength over to a voice that was never yours to begin with. That voice isn't you. It's your cage. And unless you break it, it will become your coffin. Strike before it speaks. Most people wait for doubt to show up before they decide to act. They wait until fear rises, until hesitation tightens its grip on their chest, until their mind fills with 1,000 reasons why today isn't the right time, and then they start negotiating with it. They argue with their thoughts. They try to reason with their fear. But by the time you're trying to talk down your inner enemy, it's already too late. You've given it ground. You've given it space. And it will use that space to multiply. You can't win the war in your mind by responding to every voice that shows up. That's like letting your opponent throw the first punch in every fight and hoping you can recover after. No. The truth is, you have to strike before it speaks. You have to move before the thought forms. You have to build such a powerful habit of action that even hesitation can't catch up with you. That's how I trained. The moment my mind whispered, "This is too heavy," I had already lifted it. The moment it said, "You don't feel like training," I was already sweating. The moment it said, "What if you fail?" I was already in motion. You see, the mind is a fast liar, but the body is faster when it's trained with intention. The trick is not to argue with your weakness, but to outrun it. And the only way to do that is to eliminate the space between thought and movement. Discipline isn't about doing something when you feel like it. It's about doing it so quickly, so instinctively, that doubt has no time to enter the room. That's how warriors move. That's how leaders move. That's how I train myself to live not in reaction, but in domination. The enemy can't stop you if you're already gone. When you learn to move before the fear speaks, when you teach yourself to act before the excuses arrive, you become untouchable. Because while everyone else is still thinking, still planning, still convincing themselves to try, you've already done it. And that's how legends are mad, not by thinking harder, but by striking faster. Turn pain into a compass. Most people run from pain as if it's a curse, something to avoid, to suppress, or to numb. But what they don't understand is that pain isn't the enemy. Pain is the messenger. Pain doesn't show up to punish you. It shows up to show you exactly where you're still weak, where you're still soft, where you're still holding back. Every ache, every frustration, every mental or physical discomfort you feel, it's not an obstacle in your way. It's a signal, a direction, a compass, pointing toward the part of yourself that needs to be forged. When I was younger, I used to fear the pain in my body. I thought it was a sign that I had gone too far. But the deeper I trained, the more I suffered, the more I realized that pain wasn't the thing to fear, it was the thing to follow. It taught me where my limits were. It exposed what needed to be rebuilt. The pain in my muscles wasn't just soreness, it was a voice saying, "This is your next frontier." The emotional pain I felt when I was rejected by Hollywood, when I was underestimated because of how I looked or where I came from, that wasn't failure. That was fuel. That was pain trying to wake me up. You see, most people try to escape pain by retreating into comfort. But every time you run from pain, you strengthen your enemy. You teach your mind that discomfort is danger and comfort is safety. And if your mind learns that, you will never grow. You will stay soft, reactive, hesitant, watching others rise while you play it safe. But when you face pain, when you step toward it instead of away from it, something powerful happens. You start to shift. You stop being controlled by pain and start learning from it. You stop fearing your limits and start expanding them. I learned to use pain as a map. I followed it into harder training, into deeper discipline, into the places inside myself that I didn't want to look at. And every time I chose to face that pain instead of run from it, I came out stronger, faster, more focused. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's the difference between the average man and the warrior. The average man sees pain and freezes. The warrior sees pain and moves forward, not recklessly, but deliberately, because he knows the way out is through. If you feel pain right now, emotional pain, physical pain, spiritual pain, then hide from it. Don't try to drown it. Sit with it. Study it. Ask it what it's trying to teach you, and then act on that lesson. Because pain doesn't show up to break you. It shows up to build you. But only if you let it, only if you face it, only if you stop treating it like an enemy and start using it as your compass. Empty the cup daily. One of the greatest mistakes you can make is thinking you've arrived. The moment you start believing you already know enough, that you've done enough, that you've become enough, you stop growing. You become stale, heavy, sluggish. Like water sitting in a cup for too long, it begins to rot. That's what happens to your mind when you let ego fill it. You stop learning, you stop listening, and eventually you stop evolving. That's why I developed a practice, a sacred one, and I call it this: empty the cup daily. Every night, no matter how successful the day was, no matter what I achieved, I would mentally pour it all out. The praise, the compliments, the victories, even my own philosophies, I let them go. Because if you carry yesterday's glory into today, you move slower. You become attached to who you were, and that keeps you from becoming who you could be. The world changes. The challenges change. The version of you that worked yesterday might not survive tomorrow. So why cling to it? People hold on to their knowledge like a trophy, thinking it makes them superior. But I believe the opposite. A full cup has no space for anything new. So I emptied mine. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted to stay open. Always learning, always adjusting, always sharpening. Even my deepest teachings, the ones people still quote today, I questioned them every day. Because truth evolves, and only an empty vessel can hold what is fresh. Ego tells you that you've mastered it all. But the moment you listen to ego, the enemy enters through the back door. It convinces you that effort is no longer needed, that improvement is beneath you, that your past success is enough to protect your future. And then you stop training as hard. You stop thinking as clearly. You stop living with urgency. You begin to decay from within, not because of failure, but because of pride. That's why I made humility a daily practice. I wasn't born humble. I chose it. I stripped away what no longer served me. I challenged my own beliefs. I questioned my habits. I stood in front of the mirror and asked myself, are you still becoming something greater? Or are you just recycling what you already were? Because if you don't ask that question, life will. If you want to grow endlessly, if you want to rise higher than your environment, your past, your limitations, then you must empty your cup daily. Let go of what made you feel important yesterday. Let go of the identity you're trying so hard to protect, and make space. Space for new discipline, space for new pain, space for new power, because only an empty cup can receive the fire that turns a man into something unforgettable. Forge the one command. In battle, confusion is death. That's why soldiers are trained to respond to a single, clear command, even in chaos, even under fire, even when their world is falling apart. The same principle applies to your mind. If your thoughts are scattered, if you entertain every emotion, if you debate with every doubt, you will hesitate. And hesitation is all your inner enemy needs to win. That's why I built my mind around one simple, unshakable principle. A command so clear that when fear tried to speak, I didn't have to think, I just acted. My command was this: be like water. That wasn't a quote to inspire others. It was an instruction I gave to myself every day. When the pressure mounted, when expectations crushed me, when the spotlight felt too bright or the room too silent, I returned to that one line. Be like water. Adapt, flow, cut through, find the way, or become it. That command wasn't just poetic, it was practical. It trained my focus. It silenced all the noise. It became a sword that sliced through the 1,000 useless thoughts begging for my attention. Most people don't realize this, but the reason they fall apart under pressure isn't because they're weak. It's because they have no internal structure, no central code, no command to anchor their decisions. So when life throws chaos at them, they spin, they panic, they become scattered, reactive, emotional. And that's when fear wins, not because it's stronger, but because it's faster. Because hesitation always beats potential. You need to choose your command, and it must be yours. Not a quote from a book, not a borrowed phrase that sounds deep, something real, something raw, something that burns in your bones when things get hard. Maybe it's never fold. Maybe it's no retreat. Maybe it's kill the doubt. Whatever it is, it has to be short, powerful, and immediate, something that turns your scattered thoughts into a single blade. You should be able to repeat it in your mind faster than fear can finish a sentence. Once you forge that command, you embed it into your daily actions. You say it before you train. You say it when you feel tired. You say it when your hands shake and your heart races. You say it until your nervous system stops asking for comfort and starts obeying your will. That's how discipline becomes instinct. That's how chaos becomes quiet. That's how you win the war before it begins. Don't wait for the moment of pressure to start thinking clearly. Think clearly now. Craft your command. Sharpen it, own it. And the next time fear tries to speak, you won't need to answer with words. You'll answer with movement. You'll answer with silence. You'll answer with the one command that defines the warrior you were always meant to be. Train in public silence. In a world that worships noise, silence is an act of rebellion. Everyone is trying to be seen, to be heard, to prove something. They speak fast, post often, and react instantly, afraid that if they don't respond, they'll be forgotten. But I discovered something very early in my life. The most powerful man in the room is the one who doesn't need to say anything at all. The one who can stay quiet while everyone else explodes. The one who doesn't flinch when others panic. The one whose silence says, "I've already won." I didn't learn that in private meditation or hidden temples. I learned it in crowds, in noise, in pressure, while cameras were rolling, while people doubted me, while studios tried to reshape me into something smaller, more acceptable. In those moments, I trained myself to remain still on the inside, even when the outside world was trying to shake me. Because true silence isn't about the absence of sound. It's about the absence of reaction. That's what I mastered, not just how to move fast, but how to be still when it counted. You must understand this. You will never rise above your surroundings until you can walk through chaos without becoming part of it. That's why you need to start training in public silence. Not when everything is calm, not when you're alone, but in the noise, in the stress, in the pressure of everyday life. Stand in line without checking your phone. Sit in a room full of opinions and keep your mouth shut. Scroll through distractions without reacting to any of them. Not because you're passive, but because you are preserving your energy like a blade that cuts only when needed. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's knowing that not every comment deserves a reply, not every attack deserves a counter, not every stage needs your voice. Because the moment you respond to everything, you scatter your focus. And a scattered mind is an easy target. But a silent mind, a focused mind, that is untouchable. That is lethal. That is what separates the warrior from the crowd. I trained to be deadly in my stillness. I practiced not just punches and kicks, but the discipline of restraint. I didn't need to prove myself with words. My silence made people listen harder. My calm made them uncomfortable. And my control over my breath, my body, my energy, that's what made me dangerous. So if you want to grow, stop chasing attention. Stop reacting. Start watching. Start listening. And start mastering the art of holding your ground in the storm. Because the man who can be silent while the world shouts is the man who cannot be broken. Die before you die. There is a fear that controls almost every person you see. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of death. It shapes their choices, limits their movement, and weakens their spirit long before the end ever comes. But what if I told you that the only way to truly live is to die before you die? Not in body, in ego, in illusion, in the false self you've built to survive in a world full of noise. I didn't become powerful because I chased perfection. I became powerful because I let go of everything I thought I had to be. Every night, I rehearsed death not with sadness, but with clarity. I would close my eyes and picture it all fading away. The lights, the attention, the titles, the fear, the regret, the need to be liked, the pressure to be great. I stripped it all away in my mind until only one thing remained: presence. That stillness, that awareness of life's fragility gave me something most men never have. Freedom. Because when you accept death, truly accept it, you stop running. You stop begging life to go your way. You stop clinging to control. And in that surrender, you find your greatest weapon, fearlessness. When you know that everything can be taken in a second, you stop wasting seconds. You speak what matters. You train like it counts. You move with fire in your bones and gratitude in your breath, because you've already let go of the illusion that you have forever. People fear death because they've never faced themselves. They've never sat in a room without distraction and listened to the voice inside. They've never asked, what if all this ends tomorrow? Who would I be proud of becoming? They chase legacy and reputation but ignore truth. They cling to safety while their soul quietly suffocates. That's not living, that's surviving in fear's shadow. That's dying every day without even noticing. I didn't want that life. I wanted something real, something raw, something awake. So I let go. I died to my ego. I died to my need for approval. I died to the comfort that kept me soft. And when I came back from that inner death, I was reborn into something clean, focused, and ruthless with purpose. Not reckless, but relentless. I didn't need permission anymore. I didn't need validation. I only needed breath and a reason to keep going. You want to be strong? Start here. Strip it all down. Imagine losing everything you think you need. If that thought terrifies you, then that's where your prison lives. Go there. Face it. Break it. Because once you die before you die, there is nothing left to fear. And a man with nothing to fear is the most dangerous man alive. Master the inner conversation. Every single day, a conversation is happening inside your head. Not once, not twice, but constantly. That voice that speaks when no one else is around, that's the most powerful force in your life. And yet most people never learn how to control it. They live their entire existence letting that voice dictate how they feel, what they do, and who they believe they are. They don't realize that this inner dialogue is either building them into something unstoppable or slowly convincing them to shrink, to settle, to stay quiet, to stay small. I paid very close attention to that voice. I studied it. I watched how it reacted under pressure, how it tried to sabotage me before big moments, how it disguised fear as logic. And what I discovered changed everything. The inner voice is not fixed, it's programmable. You can train it, discipline it, sharpen it like a blade, but only if you stop letting it speak unchecked. Most people let their thoughts ramble like a madman on the street. Imagine letting a stranger walk into your home and insult you day after day and never saying a word. That's how most of you treat your own minds. If you want mastery, you have to take control of that voice. You have to teach it how to speak to you. When it says, "You're not ready," you replace it with, "I was born ready." When it says, "You can't handle this," you answer, "Watch me." You don't argue with it. You overrule it, because that voice will never go away. The only question is, does it speak with fear or does it speak with power? That's up to you. During my hardest years, when I was rejected, when I was broke, when I was bedridden with injury, it wasn't motivation that kept me moving. It was the voice I had forged inside me. A voice that didn't panic. A voice that didn't beg. A voice that spoke one thing over and over. Keep going. I had trained that voice through years of silence, years of repetition, years of showing up even when my mind screamed not to. I didn't allow myself to speak weakness. And eventually, weakness stopped speaking back. You need to realize this. The way you talk to yourself is not harmless. It is not background noise. It is your blueprint. Your inner voice is setting the tone for your future. If it is full of excuses, doubt, and self-pity,